All the rest of you out there, there's something you've got to do. You need to go out and propagate our formula.
Our formula is this. We go out, we hit people in the mouth.
Put it to me, if the United States wants to strike a deal with the Taliban, why did it invade Afghanistan in the first place?
All right.
Okay.
So there's a bunch of these things going on. And by the way, the thesis, it seems to me, is that we're doing everything wrong, which is fine. So we went on, and I got quite a bit out of it. And then they pulled a trick, and I've seen this done before. This is going on more and more, and I've seen it in tech conferences, and I saw it on this thing where they
have a shill in the audience.
No, that's the problem. So to avoid the shill or the guy with the good question, and you'll start. Everyone who goes to conferences is going to start to see this, because this is the trick. At the end of all these long speeches about this and that, this guy who's the host, he goes on and says, "Okay, we're going to take a few questions, but what we want to do is I want you to ask a question, and then and we're going to take all the questions at once, and then the panel will answer the questions."
Oh, what a horrible way of doing it!
Have you ever seen this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. First, and it's so non-interactive. It's like, could you make? Why don't you submit it in writing, which they do as well, right?
Yeah, they do that too, and then you can go through them.
Right.
But so they have a whole bunch of people ask questions. Like they had about 10 people ask a question. They answered like 2 of them, but the one they definitely didn't answer. This question comes up out of the blue from a guy he runs a magazine that's for analysts, I guess, and called Executive Intelligence. And he asked this question. This is the question from the audience that I just went, we got to follow up on this one. And they didn't even touch this with a 10-foot pole.
Thank you. Mike Billington from Executive Intelligence Review. None of you have mentioned the narco side of narco-terrorism. And yet, as I'm sure you know, the Russians have, especially Viktor Ivanov, their drug czar, has declared Afghanistan to be essentially a second British opium war, with the massive flow of drugs out of the British-controlled area of Afghanistan until recently.
I want you to move the question.
Very quick.
Hey, don't be too smart there. Move it along, will you? Shut up.
The problem is that the U.S. administration under Obama has basically said we shouldn't take on the drug issue. We want to focus on terrorism. General Jones, just 2 days before he was fired or resigned, gave a very powerful speech in Russia, fully endorsing the Russian call for a global collaborative effort on fighting drugs, fighting international crime, and the sophisticated interface with international business. So I'd very much like to hear your comments on that.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow, the sophisticated interface with international business. I love it.
General Jones was fired shortly after giving a speech to the Russians saying, yeah, you guys are right. So what's that all about?
So wait a minute. So does that kind of bring up our incessant harping on the fact that we're protecting the poppy fields, and that this
only it brings in 2 other issues. It brings in who's this General Jones guy I've never heard about, and what has this got to do? Why is it in the British section of Afghanistan?
As in the British Opium War. Interesting.
So so apparently there's more dimensions to this than our simple, it's the CIA moving a bunch of money out, or a bunch of opium out, or heroin, as it were, because they got the processing facilities there too, we would assume. But the fact they would not talk, this was no.
Wow.
He didn't even want him asking the question, let alone discussing it in public. I'm sure that this was a public C-SPAN event.
Yeah, hold on 1 second, John, because everyone needs to know.
It's what we do, so you don't have to. C-SPAN.
So you don't have to.
Yeah, in fact, it took me forever. When this happened, I said, finally I got something I can use.
Yeah.
I mean, because you couldn't play these little lectures, these people. I mean, it was